viewers know all about the Kardashev scale, the famed system for measuring the advancements of civilizations based on the amount of energy they can harvest and their technological achievements. The original scale featured types 1, 2, and 3 for groups with the power of their planet, star system, and galaxy, respectively. But it has since been expanded to include types 4 and 5, universe and multiverse, and types 6, 7, and sometimes even 8, as theorists imagine civilizations that can move through multiple higher dimensions. We can see that the focus of the Kardashev scale broadly changes from type 4 onwards, gradually shifting from the traditional measure of energy usage to measure more the level of control that any one civilization can exercise over its reality. With types 6 through 8, there's an existence outside of reality as we understand it, with the power to do anything and everything it wishes. But where does this, or indeed any other system for measuring advanced civilizations, end? There have been various alternative adaptations over the years, although the most famous is probably John Barrow's inverted scale, wherein he adopts a Kardashev-like tiered approach but instead applies it to an ever-increasing understanding of the subatomic microverse, rather than the gargantuan multiverse. There was another rethink too in 2020, where researchers called for a more qualitative approach, ranking civilizations into classes 0 to 3 based on how successfully they could merge with their environment. Regardless, whether it's a Class 3 in the 2020 scale, John Barrow's Type 6-, or Kardashev's more conventional Types 6 to 8, there always seems to be an uppermost limit to how far we could go. And it's only when we reach a point where it's impossible to go any further that we can categorically say we're done. Ultimately, here is where an omega civilization operates. It's any group, being, or entity that has absolute power and control over itself and everything else on a micro and macro scale. So how does this happen? In our understanding of all Kardashev civilizations up to Type 4, we do see a hierarchical system of control extending ever outwards. From Type 4 to 5, though, we see the transition from a single universe worth of power to a multiverse worth. This is a truly massive change and moment of acceleration, and it's our first step into a truly hypothetical realm. Type 6 civilizations are characterized by a megaverse, a collection of multiverses, and the even higher dimensions that connect them all together. With Type 7, and in some cases 8, there's the omniverse, a collection of megaverses in a singular complex that again houses all of reality. And while this may sound bizarre, a multi-layered multiverse like this can theoretically be built within most current models of string theory, which propose up to an 11-dimensional structure. The scaling up of dimensions in general, though, is what dictates which reality each civilization can experience and understand. Humankind, which is still so incredibly far away from that first major paradigm shift between types 4 and 5, lives in a 3-dimensional universe. We're able to identify the first dimension of length, the second of height, and the third, which is width. These, plus a simple understanding of time, combine to make all the objects and experiences that constitute our reality. For higher-level civilizations, however, the higher dimensions are revealed. First of all, the fourth dimension of time becomes much more dynamic. Next, we suspect that the laws of nature would become malleable too. And at a high enough level, physics and mathematics become not ways of seeing the world, but ways of controlling it and being it. This is the omniverse, an infinite structure encompassing all of reality within itself. Seemingly, there's no going beyond it. Such a high-level structure is naturally difficult for us to fathom, seeing as we're still dealing in 3D only. But an omega civilization will have had to have got there. And not only that, it will have had to have passed it. Because, incredibly and somewhat incongruously, this still isn't the end by some counts. Science has tentatively speculated on an even higher dimensional structure transcending the current model for string theory, a hyperverse. The hyperverse is a multiversal structure of 12 dimensions or more, extending to a theoretical maximum of 26 dimensions. The hyperverse, if true, would be a higher dimensional plane of existence within which even the omniverse floats like a bubble. Even a collection of collections of multiple multiverses would be faintly insignificant. If we define an omega civilization as the highest possible civilization, then now even the omniverse isn't good enough for it, and we have to move on. We can then imagine further additions to the Kardashev scale, perhaps one with the ability to explore the fringes of the hyperverse, the next with the capability of colonizing the hyperverse, and finally, at Type 10 or 11, depending on which model you follow, a civilization that has completed the hyperverse. This civilization will have explored every nook and corner of the universe, multiverse, megaverse, omniverse, and all the dimensions of the hyperverse. To them, time would be meaningless and space boundless. Their understanding of reality will have brought them to the outermost edge of existence. They're the highest of the high and truly an omega force. But actually, we can still define an omega civilization differently and as existing further down the scale. From our perspective as human beings, anything Type 4 or above would be a godlike prospect, and we would be nothing more than ants from their point of view. For many then, a universal civilization would have enough to earn omega status already. It will have mastered all we physically know certainly does exist, and that's a pretty impressive achievement. At this stage, the concept of civilization, as we understand it, could be a moot point, with an omega civilization rather resembling an entity as opposed to individual beings. Again, taking a godlike form in our eyes. This entity would perhaps be characterized by a collective consciousness, or at least a consciousness that pervades, permeates, and has absolute control of the universe. Omnipotent, omniscient, and always there. If humanity were at this stage, then we would be gods. It's just that when we consider all the other levels and dimensions that various theories say could exist after it, we'd still have something else to strive towards. The multi, mega, omni, and hyperverses. And then, likely, something like an outerverse or a metaverse that's outside the boundaries of reality dictated by even the hyperverse. If there ever is an end to it, then that's where the ultimate omega civilization will be found. Life as an omega being probably wouldn't be for everybody, or indeed for anybody, so long as they contemplate it as a mere human being. Some of us might like the idea of having a galaxy to control, or even a universe, because at least that level of power translates as something that's physically possible in our minds. But while the prospect of flitting through a multiverse might also feel pretty cool, as we dive deeper and deeper down and spread our wings further and further out, the brilliant, but in this case limited human brain truly begins to hurt. For now, while we may never fully uncover the truth of these predictions for an omega endpoint, the endless possibilities do at least capture our imagination and lead us to question the world that we do see around us. It's no wonder that science fiction and superhero storylines are so popular nowadays, as theoretical science seeks to bury us further and further into the greatest possible questions. What is life? What is reality? How did it start? Where will it end? And could we ever hope to understand why the existence of anything has happened at all? We're a long way from Omega ourselves, but the wonders of just this universe are enough to motivate us to seek those greater heights, to imagine a time in the distant, distant future when everything makes sense. And that's what would happen if humanity were an Omega